Hey guys, I'm back with another foundation review today. I am going to do this one a little bit differently than I normally do. Haven't seen any of my other foundation reviews. What I normally do is I put the foundation on with you. I talk to you as I'm applying the foundation. I do close-ups in between with like half my face. And I just decided to do this a little bit differently. So instead of this being like a first impression, I've had a few of you like voice to me that you really appreciate when I do an actual review versus a first impression that are just saturated all over YouTube, to tell you how I actually think of the product after wearing it multiple times. So today we're going to be talking about the Urban Decay All Nighter foundation that has recently come out. And instead of a first impression, this is the fourth day of me wearing it since I've purchased the foundation, and I have used a different primer and a different powder every day. I will go into what I used every day and how I think, and at the end I'll tell you my pros and cons, and I'll also put in a demo of my favorite way to apply it to show you the best results that I have found that come from this foundation. So again, this is the Urban Decay All Night. I am absolutely sure that everybody watching this has heard of this foundation. This is the full coverage matte counterpart to the Naked Skin foundation, which I used to use like 2 years ago religiously. The Naked Skin is more of a light to medium foundation with a natural finish, whereas this is supposedly has 3 times the pigment of the Naked Skin foundation, and it is a matte finish. It comes in 24 shades and it retails for $40 for the standard 1 ounce of foundation. Now, the packaging is, I will say it's beautiful. We all know I'm not like somebody that buys products based on packaging. I bought this product because it's foundation. And foundation it's it for me in the makeup world. I do, however, like on the packaging where you can see in this, I don't even know what, this abstract design, you can see at the bottom how much foundation you've used. It's a vacuum packaging that comes up. Therefore, you will know when you're getting low on this foundation, which I can appreciate, versus making it an entire, this entire gunmetal plastic type covering. I do appreciate that part of the packaging. So I have written extensive notes on this foundation. Every day I wrote notes. I have a lot to say about this, so hopefully I'm not going to make this like a 20-minute video, so I'm going to go ahead and start. So day 1, I used the Cover FX Illuminating Primer. I used the foundation with a beauty blender because all the reviews I've seen, it is such a matte foundation that I just figured the beauty blender would be the way to go, and that's just my preferred method of blending foundation anyhow. So I used the Cover FX Illuminating Primer with a beauty blender, and then I set it with the Urban Decay Naked Skin Loose Powder. The first impression of that day was it patched horribly on my skin. I will say I had just gotten a hydrofacial like 2 hours before. I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but there were sections of my forehead that I had to go over 3 times to get the foundation to actually stick to it. My nose and my upper lip were horribly patched. It clung to the dry patches I had on my nose. I will say I can't speak on the first day for its longevity because I only wore it for 6 hours. I did get a very late start and basically only put makeup on to film that day. But as the day went on, the foundation looked much better. I don't know if my natural oils started coming through, even though I'm not technically oily. Has that hair been up the whole time? Oh, that's so annoying when I go to edit. Okay. I'm not technically oily, but everyone has natural oils that come through even if you're dry. So I think that helped make the foundation look a little better and didn't cling on as much. I don't know. That was my experience the first day. And at the end of the day, I was like, I don't know about this foundation. So day 2, I went in with the Becca Backlight Priming Filter Primer, which is a very dewy, very luminous primer, so I thought maybe that would help counteract the matteness of the foundation. And I set it with the La Mer setting powder, which is like my holy grail. Love, love, love that setting powder. But it also has a little bit of some reflective particles in it, so I figured that would help counteract the matteness of the foundation and maybe help it not to cling to dry patches or maybe distribute more evenly. Again, I used a beauty blender on day 2. Day 2, I wore it for much longer. I think I was total of like 13 hours by the time I took off this foundation. I will say I had to powder twice on day 2. I don't know if it was it had to have been the primer, but I had to touch up. After 6 hours, I looked greasy. And then 4 hours after that, I powdered again. I did work out that day, and it did look the exact same at the end of the workout as it did at the beginning, which says something because I did legs that day, and that's the day that I sweat the most. So it did hold up. It just got I can't recommend it with an illuminating primer unless you are super, super dry. But I don't know that I would recommend this foundation at all if you're super, super dry. So I felt like I had to touch up too much. I was a little too shiny on day 2. However, it did hold up, and I did wear it longer, so I could speak more for the longevity of the foundation. Day 3, I kind of used my go-tos for primer and foundation. I used my YSL Touche Eclat Blur Primer, and I set the foundation with my Charlotte Tilbury Flawless Finish Powder. Day 3 was by far the best day for this foundation. I did wear it for probably about 9 hours on day 3, and I didn't have to touch up once. And when I went to go wash my face, it looked exactly like it did when I put the foundation on. I will say I changed the method on day 3, and that is the demo that I'm going to insert now and show you what I do. I decided that maybe the patchiness was due to the Beauty Blender and not so much the foundation, or I guess I should say the Beauty Blender and the foundation. So I went in with a old school paddle flat foundation brush, and I painted the foundation on one side at a time because it does dry fast. On my face, and I blended out with a Beauty Blender. I do think that made an immense difference. I don't exactly know why or how, but I feel like that made the most difference. Now, after I blended everything out, I went in with my Pharmacy Hydrating Setting Spray and Mist, and I sprayed that on my face, then proceeded to blend out one more time with the Beauty Blender. I feel like the hydrating properties of the spray helped blend everything out and was less patchy. So I think that helped hands down, and will be the only way I apply this foundation in the future. I did not have any patchiness when I did it this way. I did not have any shininess when I used that primer and setting powder, and it looked fabulous. So today is day 4, and I used the Cover FX Anti-Aging Primer. All of these primers have different consistencies. They may all be silicone based, but they are definitely different consistencies. So today I used the Cover FX Anti-Aging Primer, and I again set with the Charlotte Tilbury because I just feel like that looked the best out of the 3 days, and I didn't want to veer from that really. So I have written on the back of this paper pros and cons to this foundation, and then I'm gonna let y'all decide from that list whether or not you want to try it. This is by no means like going to become a foundation that I even really look forward to using every day. I'm not going to send it back. I do appreciate some of the properties of this foundation, which I think I'm going to end on a good note. So let me talk about the cons first. The cons were, it is very patchy. It is a foundation that you are going to have to work on. When I see other reviews of this where they just pounce it on their face with a Beauty Blender, I don't get it. I just don't get it, because I feel like if they would actually zoom in, you would be able to see that it's very patchy that way. I've never had a foundation work that way for me with a Beauty Blender, so it can be patchy and you do have to work with it. It's not going to blend out like my Lorac Sheer Perfection. I mean, I feel like it blends itself. You do have to spend a little bit more time blending this out. It is the most matte foundation that I have ever tried. It trumps my L'Oreal Pro Matte and my Estee Lauder Double Wear by a landslide. Like, I honestly can't say I've ever tried something more matte. I don't know, maybe the Kat Von D Lock-It foundation is more matte. I don't know. For me, that's a con, because the older I get, the more I want to look like dewy, and not dewy, but like just more luminous and radiant. And you know, there are times that call for a matte foundation, but on a day-to-day basis, it's not my favorite. And I don't know, it's very matte. So if you are very oily, I think you're gonna love it, especially since it claims to be waterproof. I can only guess that it's gonna be oil proof as well. Because it's so matte, I think that it quickly can look like makeup on your skin. And I've always said that about the Estee Lauder. I love it, but you can look at yourself and tell you have makeup on. Quickly becomes like makeup-y. It is a very, 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 very skinny and fine line between what you want and cake face. So keep that in mind when you're applying. You really do only need one pump. And when you hear people say that, you're like, whatever. No, you really only need one pump. And that's another reason why I like using the foundation brush, because I feel like you can spread it out with even less product before you blend it in versus going in straight with a beauty blender. And it doesn't work well with illuminating primers. I'm sure other people will think differently. This is just my opinion. So I do have to kind of watch what powders and primers I use with it. It's not a foundation that's going to work with everything I use it with, which some of the foundations I own are like that. So to me, that is a con. Now some of the pros, because there are pros to this foundation, it does not accentuate my pores. For a matte foundation, I think it's the best out of all. For some reason, whether I use the Becca Backlight Primer, which does not have any kind of pore filling qualities, it still did not accentuate my pores. So an A+ for that, especially it being so matte. It does last all day long. I venture to say if I were to wear this for 16 hours, even working out, even going out in this heat, I don't think that it would move. So that's a huge pro. You do need minimal powder, and in fact, some people may not even wish to set this at all. Keep in mind, if you don't set it, it will transfer. But it does have a nice finish to where if you have more drier skin, you may not feel you need to set it at all. And even when you do, you need very minimal product. You do only need one pump, which to me means that this bottle is going to last a really long time, because I don't own another foundation where I only need to use one pump. I want to go back real quick because I just thought about it. The cons to me are the color selection. It does oxidize a little bit. I've read in reviews where they say it oxidized like 3 times. I don't find that. I am using the shade 4.0, which is what I use in the naked skin. However, it's what I use in the naked skin when I'm not tan. So I figured, well, if this oxidizes, I can use the 4.0 and it maybe will match a little bit. I can make it work, and it looks in the viewfinder right now like it's working, but it is a shade light. Keep in mind that the 4.0s, the 0.0s are yellow-based warm undertones, and the 0.5s are pink. So if you're 4.0 and want it to be darker, don't go to 4.5 because it's going to be a completely different undertone. You're going to need to go up to 5.0. So overall, my thoughts on this foundation are they're kind of 50-50. When I really work on it and when I really use the right products, I really do enjoy the finish, so I'm not going to return it. Am I glad that this review is kind of over and I can go to something different tomorrow? Kind of. I need a little break from the matte finish. But, you know, there are a lot of redeeming qualities to this foundation. If you have really oily skin, go for it. If you have dry skin, I cannot recommend it. There are going to be people who say they have dry skin and they love it. That's great, but I just can't put my name behind that recommendation. I hope this answered some of your questions you may have had. I'm hoping that maybe I brought a little something new to the table, because there is so much to know about this foundation. It's very complex. So I hope this helped. Thank you so much for watching. As always, have a very blessed day.